So, hello everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I'd like to begin this with two things, just to real quick paint a picture, to say that from the survey, I've seen that not very many of you are too familiar with the topic that I'm about to delve into. So a lot of this might be new information, or at least very vague information to you. And secondly, I'd like to begin with a little story at the beginning of this, and to kind of put you guys into that place. Imagine you are a ruler, a king, you have a queen, you have an amazing kingdom before you, and you have a child. And that child is hoped to do many great things, and to assure that you bring in an oracle, you bring in a soothsayer, but he doesn't exactly tell you what you want to know. He tells you that your son will be a renouncer. He will deny everything that he has in his life, and he will leave it all behind. Well, then you might have felt like Siddhartha's father, and you might just know a bit more about the beginning of Buddhism than you might think. Through this speech, I will be telling you about the beginnings of Buddhism as a religion, the different schools that have grown from the very start of it, as well as the teachings that are held at the very core of the religion still to this day. I'd like to begin by additionally expanding on that story and taking you back to 6th century BC, which, according to AsianSociety.org, last update in 2022, this was about the time where everything started to play. Siddhartha's father heard the soothsayer, and to avoid this future, to try to make sure that his son, his future heir, would not leave, he assured that he would give him every luxury he could have wanted. Clothes, food, anything he could think of, he had it. As simply as that he had it. And well, it really wasn't all that for him. As through his life and through a series of, at least in the Buddhist history, very famous chariot rides around his kingdom, he would witness everything that he had versus everything that his people hadn't. In his kingdom, in his castle, he would be surrounded by riches, surrounded by people that served his every whim, and then he left those walls and he saw people suffering. He saw people dying of old age, of sickness, of crime, and he wondered, what is it that makes my life and my deserving so different from them? And he held on to this thought well into the future, and he did something that also, according to the survey, I don't think any of you would be willing to do, especially those of you that have children. Deciding one day that he wanted to know the truth, leaving his wife and his newborn son, he set out to find mentors and teachers that could show him the true path to happiness, the true meaning of it all. And after trial and error and no small sort of, well, failure, to say the least, he decided to sit himself down and meditate. And he starved himself, and he denied himself drink, and he pushed himself to the bare point of starvation and death, until he stopped and he realized all he was doing was inviting more suffering. So he ate, so he drank, and he meditated, to which some say it was a day, and many others will say that it was even up to 6 months. But he meditated, and at the end of it, he had reached nirvana, which translated is enlightenment. And from this enlightenment, from this compassion for his people and fellow man, he decided to share it. And this would be the very early start of Buddhism. And from this early start is where separate variations and different schools and sects would all branch out. Which, according to One Mind Dharma, there are three main schools of Buddhism, which only one of you had at least been familiar with one of them, which is the last one here. There is Mahayana Buddhism, which is the most traditional Buddhism and very widespread around the world, practiced in Nepal, China, Taiwan, Japan, all across the world, and is the most commonly followed, to say the least. There is Theravada Buddhism, which is the way of the elders, a very conservative and, in fact, the oldest type of Buddhism to date, which is very stuck in and held to the older ways, the older teachings of Buddhism, choosing to ignore these new scriptures and these new ideals that the newer schools seek to bring about. And lastly, which is what some of you had been a bit familiar with, is Vajrayana Buddhism, which seen as sometimes as a sort of offshoot of traditional Mahayana Buddhism because of its similarities. It is a very serious and fast-paced Buddhism, choosing and attempting to reach enlightenment and ascension as fast as possible with very risky and very harsh meditation and training that can even lead to more desires and more want, which is why a lot of this school's teachings are actually shrouded in secrecy. But with all these teachings and all these schools, what exactly is it that are these beliefs of Buddhism? Well, there are two very large beliefs. The first, as noted by the Britannica of History and Society, are the Four Noble Truths, which, fun fact that I in fact learned while researching this, is translated incorrectly from Sanskrit. It does not translate to the Four Noble Truths, or the Four Truths that are noble, but instead the Four Truths followed by those who are noble. These, crafted by Siddhartha, were how he saw the world and how he sought to explain everything that happened. And the first truth of the Noble Truths is that suffering exists, and that in the barest definition, it is just the separation from the good. It is the absence of pleasantness. The second truth is that suffering is caused by unnecessary attachment, by negative action, lying, greed, murder, theft, any sort of crime, and any sort of needless want. The third truth, a bit more positive, is that eventually, even outside of death, suffering does come to an end. Suffering is not an endless cycle. There is a way to end it. And the fourth, the final truth, is that to end suffering, one must forsake the material want so that they can be, both literally and spiritually enlightened. And to follow this fourth truth, as delved into by the tricycle.org, a Buddhist blog, he crafted the Eightfold Path, the Dharma, symbolized by an 8-spoked wheel, which each part began to explain how you could reach this enlightenment and this ascension through the right understanding, thought, speech, the right action and livelihood, the right effort, mindfulness, and concentration. And also from the survey, it was shown that a lot just didn't really have too much interest in this personal enlightenment, but to Buddhists, this is everything to them, and this is something that to this day they still follow very, very strongly. And as of 2020, as discovered by the Religious Media Center survey from the UK, there is in fact over 535 million followers of Buddhism as of 2020. That still practice it to this day. And it is through this history and this growth and these teachings that it still holds strong for these 500 million people. And I have to thank you all for allowing me to discuss this history, this modern spin, and the very core beliefs of Buddhism. And I certainly hope that you walk away knowing something a little more than maybe when you started. Thank you.